Warning: the following content can be seen as disturbing and offensive. Viewer discretion is advised. People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA, is an animal rights group known for its shocking and radical marketing strategies. Its Master Race and Got Autism ads are a few examples of the extreme nature of the adverts. However, in 2003, PETA launched a campaign that got them in some of the most trouble they've ever had to deal with. The Holocaust on Your Plate campaign attempted to compare the treatment of animals in slaughterhouses to the deaths of over 6 million Jews during Hitler's rule of Germany in World War II. Lisa Langa, PETA's vice president of communications, defended the campaign by saying Nazi concentration camps were modeled after slaughterhouses. These adverts included 60 square feet signs comparing slaughterhouses to concentration camps in grim detail using actual photos of Jewish prisoners, including compromising uncensored images. They have been censored here for you. The organization stated that the imagery was supposed to be shocking and hard to look at in order to have a lasting effect that would make viewers think about the way they treat animals. The problem many people saw with this campaign wasn't necessarily the shocking imagery, but the comparison that came with them. Anti-Defamation League National Director and Holocaust survivor Abraham Foxman spoke out against the adverts, saying they were inappropriate, stating, PETA's efforts to seek approval for their Holocaust on Your Plate campaign is outrageous, offensive, and takes chutzpah to new heights. In Germany, the situation escalated further. Due to the nature of the campaign, the Central Council of Jews in Germany sued the group only a year later in 2004. By 2009, the German Supreme Court banned the images used throughout the whole country. A majority of locations that ran the campaign followed suit, pulling the images from all platforms. The ban remained in effect, while the German division of PETA tried to appeal the ban with arguments of free speech, to no avail. Was PETA right? Is the banning of these ads a violation of free speech? To understand this, it's important to first establish what free speech is and where the line between free speech and hate speech lies. In the United States, the First Amendment that protects our right to free speech is as follows. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Freedom of speech is an easy one, well defined in our own Constitution. But what about hate speech? Is there a definitive answer for what falls under hate speech within the law? As it would turn out, nowhere in the Constitution is there a definition for hate speech. During an interview on the It's Been a Minute with Sam Sanders podcast, American civil liberties activist Nadine Strozen gave it more context on how law handles hate speech from her book, Hate: Why We Should Resist It with Free Speech and Not Censorship.
So you very frequently get public officials and even lawyers saying hate speech is not free speech. But that is not correct, because the Supreme Court never has created a category of speech that is defined by its hateful or hated conduct, labeled it hate speech, and said that is categorically excluded from the First Amendment.
Does this mean that PETA was right? It would seem by all legal accounts they didn't do anything wrong, right? There are people who agree with PETA and think that this campaign does an excellent job showcasing the terrible treatment of animals. Others were disgusted and appalled by the audacity of the group to make such wild comparisons to one of the most horrific events in human history. So bottom line, who's right? Let's look at this from an ethical standpoint. Playing devil's advocate, let's first look at how this can be justified. Using Kantian ethics, we can observe that through a moral sense of duty, PETA feels they need to end cruelty and mistreatment of animals at all costs. It's the organization's duty to get their message across. A campaign of this nature would surely make people think about the way that they treat animals, when having it compared to one of the worst things that's ever happened to a human being. No one wants to make that connection, so if you force the connection through hard-to-look-at imagery, you'll get the message across. Oppositely, using ethical relativism, you can argue that culturally the ads were completely insensitive and inappropriate. The Holocaust isn't only a German event, however. The effects of the Holocaust were felt through the entire world. The majority of countries, including Germany themselves, are in agreement of the terrible nature of the event. The Holocaust isn't something that you can compare something to lightly. While the proper treatment of animals is important, it's important to understand that in almost every culture, human life is more valuable. Therefore, comparing the death of over 6 million people to a couple hundred chickens or cows that were turned into a meal necessary for human survival is outrageous and disgusting. The final verdict? PETA was way out of line with these advertisements, and according to media ethics, they were ethically wrong as well.